I want to thank the independent group for bringing forward this very important motion. And at the outset, I just want to have a look at the impact of the flooding. What used to be once in every 100 years events is now once every couple of months. And I suppose I know this best because I live in the county of Mayo. And at one point, there was only certain areas that would be subject to flooding. And now every time there's a storm and every time there's rain, there's more areas brought in to those flood zones. These people are living in fear. They're living in fear of every storm and every rain downfall, and there isn't any need for that. I first want to look in terms of what happened in the Mayo local authority, and I'm sure other local authorities, in terms of the council outdoor staff. They have been cut and cut and cut over the years. So the basic services and maintenance, like the cleaning of the rivers and the drains, and the minor works that need to be done haven't been done because there's nobody there to do them. And this has been done at the expense of local people and the cost of, without ever looking at the cost of getting rid of these staff who are doing a hugely valuable job. The other issue is in terms of farmers and landowners not being allowed to do very basic maintenance, and particularly where you live in areas of special designation, that they're actually prevented from doing the very practical things that would prevent flooding. In looking at some of the schemes, like we look at Crossmolina, there's just too much talk around this. It's been talked and talked and talked to death, and yet there isn't proper consultation, because in many situations you have the local landowners and the local businesses and the local homeowners who know what the solutions are. They know what needs to be done. So if we look at Crossmolina, even in terms of the Deal River, they knew that there was no situation years ago where the Deal River used to overflow, but the silt that has been built up over the years and hasn't been removed and has allowed to stay there causes flooding all of the time. So there needs to be much better consultation with local people who know what the solutions are. I'm not taking away from the fact that there needs to be design and planning, but there is way too much money being spent on consultants and design and planning. The government's $1 billion investment over the NDP up to 2027, yes, is very welcome, but there has to be, and I would just ask the government there has to be accountability around it, of who is in charge and where they're in charge, who is accountable, and what monitoring and measuring is being done around the implementation of these plans, and where is the money being spent. There also needs to be the ring fencing of monies to the local authorities to deal with this, so that we're not constantly in a crisis management situation. When we look again at the I leave home on a Monday or a Tuesday morning. I never know if I'm going to be able to get here or not, because I live in the Mullet Peninsula, and constantly the road is flooded at Bundula, where the whole peninsula is cut off. Now, for people trying to access hospitals and trying to get out, we just don't know what's going to happen. We're in the lap of the gods at every time, so there needs to be work done. That work needs to be speeded up. Everything is happening too slow. We then look at situations like Westport, where money was actually allocated 4 years ago, and yet the work still hasn't been done. Holly continued on the same way, where the work hasn't been done. So the on-the-ground staff need to be appointed, and there needs to be accountability, and there needs to be tracing of the works that need to be done. And then when the work is done, those places need to be taken out of the flood risk areas, so that if people want to sell their house, so that the value of their homes aren't completely depleted as well. So we want to work with you, Minister, and with others in terms of solutions around this, but we need to see much more action, and we need to see it quicker, and we need to consult and listen and feedback to people on the ground in relation to flooding. It is not right that communities are living in fear of the next downpour.